Right, I'm in that seasonal mood again, and we have Darius Pearce, who last year, almost to the day, was telling us all about Bitcoin. Was it a good thing to buy presents for your nephews and nieces for Christmas? So what this year? Is it goodbye? Bye-bye?
No, I'd stick to gold if I was you.
Stick to gold. Has anybody made, do you know anybody who's made any money with Bitcoins this year? 2018 in Jersey.
Investing in them?
Well, what do you have to do with them?
Obviously not. No, you wouldn't have made money investing in them this year.
Really? Because?
Well, from last year, was it just before the peak?
Right.
So
they were looking at then last year about 12,000, I think.
Okay, so that was just before the peak.
Right.
And now they're down to 2,500. So.
Oh, really?
So
that's
you would have
good.
lost money.
And how would you, because we discussed all this, you didn't actually know you'd lost it until you tried to do anything with it, did you?
You don't know you've lost it till you, well, it's what they call an unrealised loss until you actually sell them. So like it was there's a lot of people who didn't take their unrealised gains and now regret it.
You played around with them a little bit. Have you played with them during the year?
No.
Not at all.
I sold mine at the peak last year.
Right.
So I still buy and sell, I still trade them.
When you say you trade them for other people?
Yes.
Yeah, because you raised actually about the enormous amount of electricity you need to go mining, all these technical terms. You see, I remember something about it.
Yes. It's too expensive to do in Jersey.
Right. Strange that, isn't it?
No.
Because it looks like if you had a computer here,
yes,
and it was plugged into, say, a French computer, and that was doing the mining, that would do it for you. So you could afford to do it on that basis.
That's not how it works.
No?
You need to have a rack of about 18 graphics cards all lined up together without any actual computer, all processing the transactions at one time. You need to spend about £1,000 on a mining rig. And then, so my friend who lives here, who does it in Poland, where the electricity is cheaper, he'll have a dozen of those mining rigs, and the electricity, you take the cost of the electricity and the cost of what you can sell them for, and that's your profit. But obviously, if the price is only £2,500, you're not making very much on something you have to spend 20 grand to put together. Right.
When I last came in the shop, there was a charming couple here who were playing at it, and they spoke computer speak, and they seemed to be very keen on it. I don't know who they were, what happened to them. Did they become multimillionaires in 2018?
Well, you could have done if you'd have bought in. It's all about. It's one of those things you can't buy. Nobody should buy and expect immediate profit.
Right.
The only way that we all make profit is because the government is so financially irresponsible that the value of money goes down faster than the value of the, and so the price of the things goes up. That's how it works for everything. Bitcoin, gold.
Right.
When I was young, 10 pence used to buy an awful lot of sweets.
A couple of things were quite topical last year. The Bulgarians had a huge number of them, but what happened to the Bulgarian cash?
They found that they hadn't actually confiscated it at all.
Oh, really?
It disappeared into one of the government officials'
So the thin air disappeared into even thinner air.
Yes, yeah. Well, I'm sure somebody in the Bulgarian government knows where it went to. Probably the equivalent of Charlie Parker, I would guess.
The other thing we touched upon was the strange Icelandic affair where the man ran away with the computers, and he fled the country on the same plane as the Prime Minister. Did we ever find out what happened to those?
No, never found out what happened to those either.
Because Iceland was in a very wise position, has a cold climate, which is very good for cooling these great thousands of computers which they have all lined up, and they're able to generate electricity from thermals.
Yes.
So they're in an ideal position, but does that mean they're all stinking rich in Iceland now from trading in bitcoins?
I shouldn't think so.
No,
it's not in the Scandinavian mentality to get stinking rich, is it? It's not something that they do out of choice.
So last year your seasonal thought was best to invest in love. That was your that was a better investment, you thought.
Yes.
Does that still apply for this year, do you think? You mentioned Charlie Parker. Do you think he'll be getting a big dose of love in his Christmas stocking?
Well, he seems to have offended a lot of civil servants locally, so therefore he'll be getting a big dose of love from me. Yeah. But at the end of the day, no. You don't want. Why would you waste your money on buying things for people who wouldn't appreciate it? You should make sure that what you do give is something that will be appreciated.
Right.
And that's not always that's not always expensive. It's the time that you give and the thought that you put into it.
Right. We also discussed the Hunt brothers. They're
Yes.
trying to buy the world's silver, which is a project which got quite well advanced. And you were quite a fan of silver and gold, as we know. Has anybody tried to corner the market on bitcoins, or is it just too big a thing?
Well, the two twins who set up Facebook with Mark Zuckerberg, they did take the $11 billion or whatever they got from their sale of their share of Facebook, and they put it into Bitcoin. And if you look back at the chart, there was a big jump up from about $2 to about $100. That was when they put their money in.
Right.
So I presume that now, assuming that they haven't sold all of it, what I would have done if it was me, I would have sold enough to get my initial investment out and then left the rest as a whimsy. Then they will still be have done fairly well out of their investment.
Right.
But obviously, if you're buying that much, then you will. It's all about moving the market, isn't it? You have to have sufficient funds to move the market in a certain direction, and you can always remember that the banks have unlimited funds with which to move it in the opposite direction if it suits their profitability.
Why have banks got unlimited funds?
Because banks make money.
Right.
All you need to do, as any accountant will tell you, is put a debit in one side and a credit in the other, and the money is created. Because money is just debt.
So we're almost at the end of this year. What's your prediction for next year? We'd like to have predictions at this time of the year, especially with Bitcoin. Is any country going to go bust because they've got too involved?
There is Venezuela, of course, who now you have to buy their oil with their own digital currency.
Oh, really?
So that's. But it's difficult to know what's going on because obviously we don't get told what's really going on, and there is the world is separating into two halves: the British half, the Anglo-American half,
right,
and the Chinese half, the Russian-Chinese half. Pretty much as has always been, and we will see what happens. We will see what happens. All interesting, as the Chinese say, "May you live in interesting times." And we certainly
indeed. Do you think anybody suggested to Mrs. May that we ought to turn the sterling into Bitcoin? Do you think anybody suggested as a little hedge?
Well, that was the project that Martin and I were working on, wasn't it? We're having bitcoins backed by sterling silver.
Right.
The technical details of how you would operate a distributed ledger network and how you would pay the people to run the computers to operate the network, which is necessary in order to prevent a 51% attack, because they're not totally safe. If you can take over 51% of the network, then you can overwrite everybody else's record. So you do need sufficient different stations to keeping a record of the ledger, so that you basically prevent someone from stealing the whole record.
Right.
Because basically all Bitcoin is a record of transactions.
Remember those chocolates you used to buy all in gold paper? You always used to get a few of those in your stockings for Christmas. Do you think that could be a viable alternative to Bitcoins? But they've got all the semblance of money, haven't they? But they're not. You can eat them. That's the one resolving thing about those.
That's it, yes.
Eh?
Well, no, because money, as you know, in order to be a good source of money, it needs to be durable, fungible. It needs basically. You can have apples, and the next week you won't have apples. You'll have rotten apples. You can have gold in 50 years' time. Even if you chuck it at the bottom of the sea, you'll still have gold. And that is the beautiful thing about gold. It never changes.
Well, that's been most interesting, and I hope we shall come back at the end of next year and get the latest update on Bitcoins and the world. Thank you, Darius.
Thank you, Mike.